Decarbonization demands our courage and ingenuity to outpace the clock and reduce our carbon footprint. Our first speakers today are from Illinois Green. We have Brian Imus and Katy Kaluzny. Brian is the Executive Director of Illinois Green, where he's been involved in numerous initiatives, codes, and ordinances, including the most recent stretch code for energy in Illinois, building performance standards, and newly unveiled Building Energy Resource Hub. As Deputy Director of Illinois Green, Katy directs and implements education programming, fosters organizational partnerships and collaborations, works with all staff on their program goals, and oversees the day-to-day activities of the organization. This is their 5th consecutive year, I believe, of presenting at the Cyclone Rodeo, so we really want to thank you for your stewardship and support of our events here. And lastly, I want to mention, too, that this year on October 12th is their Getting to Zero Summit and the Limelight event, so please don't miss signing up for that. So, thank you.
All right, well, as we're getting started, just a huge thank you to Cyclone, to Benny, to Mary, to the team at Cyclone. It's always a wonderful opportunity to be here and to be able to share with all of you. Couple of quick things that I want to share just in terms of as we get started and what Katy and I want to share with you. There are the trends towards building decarbonization. It's happening very quickly. And I want to set the stage by talking a little bit about the policy trends that we see that are making decarbonization happen so quickly and the impact it's having on the building industry. And then want to leave with you a couple of things that you all can do, should be doing, the opportunities that exist for you as building professionals to take advantage of these trends and some of the resources that are available to you. So just quickly, I know many of you are familiar with the organization, but Illinois Green Alliance, we are a network of, we're a nonprofit network of building professionals who are passionate about sustainability. It's a broad spectrum of different industries, so developers, owners, architects, contractors, engineers, but all of them associate with Illinois Green because they're interested in making a difference in addressing climate change and other environmental threats and leveraging their expertise as building professionals to address those problems. We do that in 3 key ways. First is professional education. Last year, we had dozens of education programs with over 4,000 attendees. And the way that we're able to put on so many education programs, besides the hard work of Katy and her team, is our members who drive the topics and make sure that the topics are relevant and of interest to the building industry. The other thing that we do to help to drive our mission of green buildings for all is community engagement projects, leveraging the expertise and the time of our members who want to give back through projects like the Illinois Green Schools Project or the Neighborhood Power Project or an energy benchmarking data jam that we're doing in Oak Park. This is an opportunity for our members to make sure that we are reaching out beyond traditional buildings, reaching hard to reach, overlooked buildings with the technologies and the design best practices that we know actually work, to be able to make sure that decarbonization is happening everywhere and to be able to demonstrate that it's feasible and affordable in nonprofit buildings, places of worship, in schools, places like that. The Neighborhood Power Project, for example, the partnerships that we were able to build with the help of our members who volunteered their time, we've been able to go back to those organizations who own their own buildings and actually help them to apply for funding to do energy efficiency retrofit projects. And then finally, the third big piece to the puzzle to advance building decarbonization in Illinois and make Illinois a national leader is just around policy. We actually need to figure out how to dramatically scale what we know works, and we know policy is a good way to do that. There is a lot happening with policy right now. I've talked about this before, but the interest and the impact of policy is exponentially having an impact on building decarbonization right now. We see it in part because corporations and others are interested in ESG and climate commitments. We see it at all levels of government. We see it, for example, IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, whatever you call it. It is literally providing billions of dollars, free money, to buildings to actually do decarbonization projects. And the rules for how that money gets to all of you are being written right now. It's also happening at the state and local level. The most dramatic example, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act passed 2 years ago. It is hands down the most comprehensive Climate and Equitable Jobs Act law in the country. It has a big, bold goal of making sure that Illinois' electric grid is carbon-free by 2045, and it has clear funding available, clear metrics, and a clear plan to make sure that that goal is being met. And there's a lot happening with a lot of different agencies to make sure that this law is effective. I think a really good example among lots of things that I could highlight, there is $80 million available every year for workforce development programs to assist contractors. There's two elements of the law that are most relevant to buildings. First is the law dramatically increases and extends the life of the energy efficiency utility rebate programs. And what you're seeing here on this slide, every 3 years, Ameren and ComEd, they are responsible to present what their plan is on how they're going to spend the rebate dollars, how they're going to make it available. Each time they're responsible for ratcheting up the reduction that they're going to meet by delivering more energy efficiency in the dollars that are being spent. And this is an opportunity also every 3 years for stakeholders to weigh in on the process and the plans that the utilities are presenting. The other big opportunity is the energy stretch code that the Capital Development Board is responsible for establishing for municipalities to adopt here in Illinois. That process is happening right now with the intention of having the stretch code that goes above and beyond the base energy code by the end of this year, and then have it available for municipalities to adopt this new stretch code and make it the code in those municipalities that adopt it starting next summer, so less than a year away. There's also, so that's around implementation and what's happening at the state level. That's the law of the land, that's getting implemented, but there's also action at the municipal level as well. First, one thing that's worth noting, Oak Park just recently passed an ordinance requiring all new construction buildings to be all electric, and the city of Chicago is looking at a similar ordinance right now called the Clean and Affordable Buildings Ordinance. This is a priority and a commitment of Mayor Johnson to act on the Building Decarbonization Policy Working Group recommendations that came out about a year ago. It's also a key way that the city is going to deliver on the climate action plan that was released last year as well. We haven't seen the ordinance language yet, but we have a sense of what's going to be in that ordinance when it's introduced in the next couple of months. On the new construction side, it's going to drive all new construction projects to be all electric, with a few exceptions like hospitals and commercial cooking. And then on the existing building side, it will codify a process to establish a building performance standard policy for the city of Chicago. That building performance standard policy, essentially what it does is it will require and mandate energy efficiency retrofits of any building over a certain size. One way that this is establishing and figuring out the rules for how that policy will actually operate that I think is really important to note is that a working group will be established of stakeholders to help the Johnson administration determine what the ultimate rules and ordinance will be to establish a building performance standard for buildings in the city of Chicago. And you're all going to have an opportunity to learn a lot more about building performance standards in the next program from Cliff, from the Institute for Market Transformation. Before I go there, I want to just leave you with, there is a lot happening. It's federal, state, municipal level. The landscape is changing very, very quickly. I think it's very critical that building professionals who actually understand how to finance buildings, how to operate buildings, weigh in the implementation and the development of these laws. And Illinois Green is leveraging our membership and finding ways to make sure that lawmakers hear from our members in that process. We delivered a letter to the Mayor Johnson with 150 building professionals earlier this year outlining recommendations, endorsing the best ways to address building decarbonization policy, and then to connect our members with city council members and other lawmakers. We're scheduling building tours where lawmakers, not the general public, but lawmakers can come and check out what an all-electric building actually looks like and how it operates and what the technologies are and what was involved in financing a project like that and what were the code challenges that they faced. We've got one of those coming up on September 21st in Jefferson Park. It's a retrofit of a bungalow to be all electric, and the tours, the connections here, the learning for the lawmakers, it's not going to be Illinois Green staff. It will be coming from the owner, the contractor, and the architect talking about the challenges and the opportunities around doing projects like that. So if all of you are interested in getting lawmakers to come tour your project, let me know. The other is we held a training for our members 2 weeks ago to learn how to actually connect and communicate with your local elected official about building decarbonization so you can share your own experience in what you do professionally. And that's going to be really valuable in educating these lawmakers as they start to consider the rules for implementation and how to write, for example, the details of an ordinance like this. The other thing that is a huge opportunity, there just needs to be a resource to help building professionals, all building professionals, to actually comply, take full advantage of all the new innovative financing that's happening. And to do that, Illinois Green Alliance has created the Building Energy Resource Hub. This is a new project of Illinois Green Alliance, but one thing that's worth noting, we branded it as a separate project with its own dedicated website. We've done that because Illinois Green Alliance is exactly the right place for you all to go if you're interested in getting the latest trends and technologies around net zero. But if you're just a regular old building professional, you don't necessarily care about all this stuff, you just want to finance your project, you just want to comply with the law, the intention is the Building Energy Resource Hub is the place to go where you're going to get the tools, the resources, the compliance checklists that you need that's going to help you with your project. So it's a great way for us to be able to reach all building professionals. To do this, we didn't just launch this project out of the blue. Actually, Katy and I have been talking about this for more than 5 years because we just think it's a great idea and a great way to reach more folks and more buildings. But a little over a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, we actually partnered with the Institute for Market Transformation and the Building Energy Exchange in New York. That is a similarly modeled project there in New York. and hired them to actually do a needs assessment. That needs assessment, we wanted to get a good sense of the lay of the land. Is a project like this actually needed? So it included market research. It included a survey with hundreds of stakeholders responding to that survey. We actually were able to get support from BOMA and from the city building department to get that survey out into the hands of as many building professionals as possible. And then we also did 40 one-on-one interviews with different folks from different industries tied to the building industry. And the responses, 4 key takeaways. First and foremost, we heard quite a bit about there is a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of energy efficiency rebate programs and other things that are available to me, but there's just so much happening. It's confusing. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to get what I need to get. We also heard quite a bit about the struggle of finding the contractors that have the right expertise for the right project, and just doing that matchmaking. Heard a lot about the importance of better policy to just level the playing field and make sure that all buildings are complying, and that's going to drive the demand that is necessary to make all of this happen. And then this is I don't think going to surprise any of you, but we heard quite a bit, especially from owners and developers, that we hear all the time that the ROI is there for high performance building projects, but it's hard to actually see the hard data to prove that that's the case. So with all of that, the intention and all of that research that we did helped to inform how to actually structure the hub, how to determine what programs and services it should provide. And to tell you more about all of that, I'd like to invite Katy Kaluzny to tell you all about the hub and how it can be a resource for you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Brian. I am going to tell you, and I'm so glad the words are gone because that was making me nervous that I was going to see everything I said while I looked over here. So thank you, Benny. And I'm really excited to talk about the hub. So I'm going to put on my other cowboy hat, if you saw me have another one before. And I am both working with Illinois Green and working on our programs there, but I'm also working to launch the programs of the hub. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that and the different things that we're starting to offer and how we can contribute to more things like this in the future. Let me go to the next slide. So the hub will do lots of things. It's doing a few things now, and one of the reasons that we launched it when we did just in August of 2023 is that we saw all of this policy work happening at the city and at the state level, and one of the things that we heard quite a bit is that it would be really helpful to have a resource like this launched and ready, and that would actually help lawmakers pass policy as well, to show that there was this entity, there was this place to get the resources for buildings that didn't know how to do it. And so we launched it when we did to help support the passage of policy, and now we're going to continue to build those things out as those policies come forward. So we're looking to help scale building decarbonization with the resources in the hub, address the market gaps that were identified in the needs assessment, alleviate that market uncertainty that Brian mentioned about the ROI and the resources available, link to partner programs and services. We know that there's lots of people doing awesome things in Illinois and different companies, different projects, different nonprofits, but someone doesn't have the time to look in 15 places for where all of those things are. And so we're going to kind of bring those into a one-stop shop and link you away to other people's things where we can, and then provide new resources for where there isn't something that exists already. We're also going to serve a lot of folks that we serve at Illinois Green, but have more of a large focus on the real estate owners, the developers, construction managers, funders and investors, and elected officials as well. So they can point to this as well to their local constituents as a resource for them. And we're going to do this through partnerships. As I mentioned, we can't do this alone. There are a lot of cool people doing amazing things already. We want to bring those stakeholders in to figure out what are the resources that would best serve your members more, or best serve your industry more, and create those things or adapt those items on the hub website as well. We already have a lot of cool partners. Some of them are that are working with us on funding and grants to continue support of that work, including the Illinois Finance Authority, Elevate, ComEd, and the ICC as well. And we launched a website, as I mentioned. It is buildinghub.energy. Cool website name. You should find it. You can click the QR code and it'll take you right there if you'd like. You'll have another chance in a few slides to do it. But the website is really where we're going to be able to find all of these things. We don't have a physical location. It's not a hub that you can all come to yet. We hope to have a place where we could host trainings and do that in the future. But right now, it's a web resource so that it can be accessible to everyone across the state of Illinois, across the region. We also are looking to host workshops in different neighborhoods with partner community organizations in different municipalities where they're looking to have those workshops. So for us to be roaming and roving is the best way to do it right now. But if anyone wants to find a space for us in their building in the future, you let us know. We're happy to move in. But right now, it's a really great web resource. And we have some industry resources that have already been launched on that website. We partnered with, as Brian mentioned, IMT and BEX in New York to see some of the resources they had created already. What were the most used things on their websites? They already have some of the ordinances and policies that Brian was mentioning that we're looking at here in Illinois. So what are people utilizing and using already, and how can we adapt those for Illinois and the Chicago region? So there are some industry playbooks and guidance for different professions. So for engineer, architect, contractor, building owner, developer, they're there already. We're excited to work with you guys to keep making them even a more robust resource, but there's something that exists for you to look at right now. We also have some technology primers, so looking at what are the things people ask us the most questions about. People email me, where is a heat pump right for my building, or should I switch out all of my steam to heat pumps? I don't know. I don't do that, but I know all of you do, and so we're going to have a great discussion forum on the website for people to ask questions, get answers from industry experts, but also technology primers and supporting education programs that go with those things that can then live on demand on our website after that fact. We'll have Ask the Expert sessions, some great case studies. Again, some of these things exist there already, and we're going to just keep growing those things over time and as those policies pass. We have a group of education programs already listed. There's actually one happening right now. Sorry you're missing it. It's about very high efficiency HVAC, which is pretty cool and nerdy, and pretty excited to have that be on demand on our website later. So if you missed it today because you're here at the rodeo, you can watch it another time. We're actually touring a building that has this retrofit happening in Oak Park later today. We're going to do a financing presentation in October. And then my favorite, getting started with energy benchmarking, which is everyone's favorite thing, because you can't manage what you don't measure. And so we're going to keep doing that as we go as well. We also have a really cool advisory board of industry experts, including Emmy Riley from Cyclone Energy Group. And so we're having our first meeting of the advisory board in October, where we're going to continue to gain their industry expertise and what we can move forward with next as far as our resources are concerned and partnerships. I just wanted to share again the website and just ways to get involved with it. This is, as Brian mentioned, meant for everybody. And there's a 10% of folks that have been paying attention to high performance buildings for a while because we love it and we want to talk about it all the time and we're looking for that next thing. But there's another 90% of folks that, like Brian mentioned, aren't going to do it until the code or policy requires them to do so. And so how do we keep bringing all of those folks into the fold, giving them the resources they need while also leaning on the expertise of those that have gone before and been early adopters of these technologies and projects to share those with the folks coming next. There's a way to volunteer on the website. You can fill out a form, say what you'd like to do. There's a way to share your industry expertise, like as a one-time thing, or be matched with someone in the future, and also say that you're interested in kind of that discussion forum, sharing your expertise that way too. So check it out and also send suggestions for things that you'd like to see there. And with that, I hopefully got in the 30 minutes of time. And do we have time for Q&A? Awesome. Brian, come back up.
All right, well, thank you all so much. Anybody have any questions for Brian and Katy? Yes, Tom.
Conversions.
Tom has asked about the electrical infrastructure. How would you do that again, Tom?
Sorry, how concerned should we be about the existing electrical infrastructure that's going to be required to support the conversion from fossil fuel to electric?
It is a concern, but there's a lot of talk and debate and a lot of research I know being done by the utilities on how to meet the growing demand, and a lot of research and experience from other states who are looking at that exact same challenge. But I think that, again, what you're raising is something that needs to be raised with lawmakers so that they're paying attention and doing the proper planning. And so I think that's why it's important for folks to kind of speak up and share those concerns with policymakers as well. But again, in the conversations I have in talking about policy, that gets raised a lot.
Excellent. John.
Yes.
Hold on.
I still have many clients as well as friends who are climate deniers. Can you point to...
No way.
Can you point to a really good, let's say, 2 or 3 page summary with resources that I can use? Because I want to develop this myself. I thought if there's something available that's
Yeah.
readily available.
That is a
What can you
great
find is-
idea. I've seen a lot of different examples of that, but it depends on the audience and what their concern is. So if, what industry they're in, kind of what the denial is coming from, I suppose. But I know that there's a lot of different things, so I'm happy to talk with you afterwards. I know you, hi. And so we can find out a good resource for that. And it's also something I think is helpful for the hub, and there's some like 101 type of trainings that we can do on that. I don't know if it's going to change someone's mind, but I can definitely share some items that I've used with even with schools and different nonprofits in that regard.
Great. Thank you.
It might also be valuable to switch the topic. I don't know if you're ever going to convince a climate denier, but by talking about the ROI and the financing that's available to do projects differently, that might turn somebody's like, I don't care about climate, but I want to make money, or I want my building to be healthier and better for my residents, things like that.
Great. Yes.
You said something interesting about data analytics on ROI. So could you make a few suggestions of where to develop that? Would it be with a consulting firm, or analyzing your own data, or how would you go about collecting some of that?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the issues is everybody's project is different. And so they're all going to have different ways that they're financing the project and the return on investment of those items. I think that the conversations that we got that from were mostly from developers and owners saying that, I really want to do passive house, but I want to make the business case, and I feel like it makes sense in the end, but how do I make it work from the front? Because if I can make it work from the front, then everyone else should be doing it too, because, but also that person doesn't have time to be sitting down and educating everyone else on how they made it work. And so that's one of the things that the hub is going to try to do, is find those stories and turn them into something that is more helpful to a larger stakeholder of the industry, or larger stake of the industry. I don't know that there's one answer, or if that answered your question, but it is a really hard problem to solve, and it's one that I think as policy and code happens and people have to do it. Right now, it's people that want to and are trying to make the case. Once you have to, I think we're going to have more and more resources that are going to teach people down the right path for that. Cool.
Yes, Amir.
I appreciate it. Not a question. I'm Amir Zayev from Psychology Group, but hearing the 2 questions, I had a suggestion maybe for you guys. Let me start by saying I'm really glad to hear that you guys talking to Building Energy Exchange in New York State. I'm actually from Buffalo, New York, so I kind of know their work. And Urban Green Council, they put out really good resources. And the 2 questions just jogged my memory that they have actually one study at the New York City level that talks about electrification capacity at sort of parcel level, that kind of helps at least understand if your building exists within a parcel, like how much capacity there may be, and that study is phenomenal, like, and it shows. if the entire New York City were to be electrified, where and what seasons there could be capacity issues and things like that. And the second question reminded me to talk about the scale, right? Data analytics at what scale? Like the hub is a really great place to provide maybe city level or parcel level scale that can be a conversation starter. But at a building level, I wish there was easier answer, but unless you dig into it, sometimes, you won't know what the capacity issues or data related to buildings is. But I think the hub is in a really good position to provide some of that, at least higher level information that could be a conversation starter. So I don't know if that resonates, but hopefully.
No, that's great. And actually, we've been lucky enough to secure some funding to start doing some of those studies that are more local and working with partners on that. We partnered with ComEd on some programs, and also we just received a grant from the Department of Energy to also fund this work over the next 4 years as well. And so getting into those items, we're still negotiating with DOE on the getting that money. But once we have it, these are the right studies, and that advice is very helpful and what would be useful on the website moving forward. Appreciate it.
Quick question. I know you're only a month into your into the hub, but who have some the initial users been? Like, what type of people are coming to you?
Well, surprisingly, I've gotten a lot of people filling out the volunteer form first, which is great, saying that they'd like to help others. I didn't expect that to be the first use, but it's great. Some people have also suggested other resources they'd like to see there or things that they are aware of that they think we should link to, which is great. Would love to have more of that. I have a lot of folks actually right now that are contacting me because they are in Oak Park, and Oak Park also just passed an energy benchmarking ordinance for the first time, and they all have to comply by December 31st this year. And so I've been chatting with lots of folks that don't know how to use Portfolio Manager, set it up, get their bills, get it all in there. And so those conversations, I think, are going to keep happening as more cities look at that, or even as Chicago looks at future iterations of the ordinance. But right now, so far, it's been people related to policy that's impacting them, and then others suggesting us more resources. I think that that'll change as policy passes in Chicago and in Illinois to be people more looking to how to comply.
I think the other way that we're going to grow that list and reach beyond just the choir of building professionals who are already interested in high performance building is through partnerships that Katy was talking about. And so that's why we're partnering with organizations like BOMA, Chicago, ASHRAE, and others, so we can kind of reach beyond just like the traditional folks and find others who are going to need the types of resources that are provided by the hub.
That's great. I think we have maybe time for one more or two more questions if there's others interested. Yes.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Cameron with Ware Malcolm. My question, and maybe you don't have the answer, but this is more about the supply side than the demand side. There's been a lot of discussion about the demand, and is there a concern when we have peak demands? But on the supply side, I've heard a lot of stories about green energy projects that die because they cannot get connected to the grid due to cost. And there's lots of different reasons why that might happen. Perhaps it's a solar array out in a very remote location and they just simply don't have the transmission lines in close proximity. Do you have any insight on that? Is there any statewide or federal-wide programs being implemented to try to address that?
The governor and legislators who supported CEJA, they have a big stake in making sure that the law is effectively implemented. And so state agencies like DCEO and others who have a role to play are paying really close attention to how the law is being implemented, how it's going, are they meeting their short-term goals? And there's already talk of identifying places where there might be needs to address more policy, like overcoming barriers to getting some projects connected to the grid and things like that. So there is a conversation around those sorts of things. I feel like if you have specific examples, specific stories, I think that's really helpful for all of us to know, to be able to communicate it to lawmakers so they know.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for your thoughtful questions and for Brian and Katy fielding all of this. And your presentation was fantastic. Give them a round of applause, folks.
Thank you.
And before you walk away, we wanted to just thank you for your long-lasting support of our event and wanted to present you with this, not my first rodeo trophy
Oh my God.
for your shelf.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah, we have one more that'll be mailed to you, so you both have.
Well, I'm just gonna put it on my desk for now.
Perfect.
Thanks.